This is the tower part of a charging station. Normally you'd have the plate underneath here at the mower park one. We took this off just to make it easier to work with. But what we want to show you here is a lot of times, you'll get to where this top part is sagging down a bit. We're going to show you some of the components in there that can be replaced to help keep that staying up there so that the mower's not coming in and smacking into it, even if you have your plate level. So the first thing you got to do is you got to take out the two screws in here to take this face piece off right here. And you got one screw there and one screw there. And they use the T20 Torx bits for that. You can pop the button back here. You push that in so it's loose and ready to flip up, because once you take those screws out, then this whole thing, this top part right here and this front piece is going to lift right up off of there. So we'll go ahead and take those two screws out and show you what to do after that. Okay, we're going to take these two screws out here. Very simple to do. Sometimes they like to stick right in there because they get pinched because of this piece trying to pop up. But see, that one's definitely loose there. There we go, two screws out, set them aside, pop the button in the back there, and we can lift everything up off. Now normally there would be a circuit board in here, and you would have to unplug this cable, and if you have the one with the park button, you'd have to unplug that cable too. This one here is just a dummy one we're using to show you how simple this is to do this. And this is the part here you want to focus on, because this is where all your stuff is at that you're gonna want to replace if you're having issues. First thing to do is to check that you actually have a spring in here for this button, because otherwise this isn't going to latch and it's just going to always be flopping around. So you want to make sure you have that spring in there. That spring does tend to come out every once in a while, and that is replaceable. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to pop that spring out very carefully, because anytime you're using a spring, you should always be wearing safety glasses because they can go flying anywhere. But you see how I did that right there using my Torx bit screwdriver. This sits down in there, so it's kind of locked into place by a plastic tab here and on the button itself. But if you take your screwdriver, just push it in there and pry up on it gently, comes right out. Then you don't have to worry about going to fly anywhere because it's on your screwdriver. Okay, so we have the front part here and we have our cap, and we want to get this top cover off of here. We want to separate all this stuff. This can be a little tricky because you got more springs in here. They can go flying. There's springs in the hinge. There should be anyway. So you got to be careful of that. So what we're going to do is, just to make sure these springs don't go flying away, we're going to take out these plates right here that the mower drives into to connect to charge. So we'll carefully hold down on this, push in on it a little bit, take these screws out right here. Now this is where you got to really be careful. You want to make sure you're wearing safety glasses for this one. Pull that out of there, and then you can hold the spring there with your finger and slowly pull everything out. There you go. That spring didn't go flying. You can pull the spacer piece out of here, and we'll do the same thing to the other side. Just gonna hold in on this a bit, put our hand there, our thumb there over the spring. Just kind of hold everything in place while we take the screw out and take that washer off of there. There's our screw and our washer. And now we'll gently leave this out. Hand your finger on the end of the spring, push in on the spring a little bit. Gently pull that out while holding the spring so it doesn't go flying. Again, should always wear safety glasses when working with springs and stuff of that nature. They can go flying or take an eye out. So there we go. We got that part out of there. Now we're going to take these two screws right here out, right here in the middle. And all these screws here in the top, they're all the gray painted screws, so you don't really have to worry about getting them mixed up or anything. It's just there's washers on these that go in here, and no washers on the other ones. Then back here at the back, by your where your button was at, where you took that spring out earlier, 2 more screws right there. Go ahead and take them out. All right, now we can unclip this top piece here. There's 3 little clips up here, 3 little tabs up here at the top. Just gonna pull that right up out of there. So that part there, your cover, that's free. If you need to replace that, there you go. The button part here, we took that spring out so we could remove this entire thing. This just sits right in there like that. That's it. Spring's what holds this thing in place. So if you need to replace that button, there you go. That's how you do that. All right. Now we're down to all of this good stuff here. And the wires here, if you would have a problem with them, this little button right here, this is for your for parking the mower. The older ones had this button on the top, so you can hit that and go park in a charging station. Majority of the new ones you're going to see don't have that on there. So if you get a new charging station and you're wondering why it's not there, it's because they decided to do away with that feature. All right, now we're going to separate this piece right here from this face piece. And what you want to do here is you have your little white wire holders up here. You want to get them out of the way. So carefully just pry them out of there. Doesn't take a whole lot of effort and force to get them out of there. You don't want to mess them up because you want to put them back in. Now this is something, you're watching this video now, and when you go to do this, if you want, you can go ahead and do them ahead of time because it's going to make the next step a lot easier. You want to make sure you're wearing safety glasses for this one because this is another time where springs can go flying. And those springs are right down in there and right down in there. You can see it. This has some spring to it, as you can see here. Oop, hard to show you there, but well, you just have to take my word for it. There's some bounce there. When you go to take this apart, you'll notice it too, that there is spring tension on this top piece right here. There we go. You can actually even hear it there. But yeah, that's spring loaded, and that's what helps push that up into place. So what you're gonna do with all your wires out of the way here, you're just gonna rock that back the whole way, and then just kind of wiggle that out of there. Just as simple as that. If you're real careful, those springs will stay in place right there like you see here, and you won't have to worry about that. All right, so these are all of our pieces from the upper part of our tower on our charging station, and we're going to work on putting this back together now. So the only way you could tear this down even further is if you wanted to replace these contacts for charging the mower, and you can just replace that entire harness or your park button by just popping the grommet right out of there. Pretty simple to do, but we don't have to replace any of that stuff, and that's pretty self-explanatory. But there you see it anyway. You know how to do that. Then you just get that back in place and make sure it's even, the grommet's even the whole way around there, and then you're good to go. So we're gonna put this back together. We're gonna show you how this all goes back in there. And your springs, the ones that go here in your hinge assembly, they're blue in color. The one for your button, your stop, or your button to open everything up, that one's got reddish brown on it, and you can tell there's a big difference in length there between them. So we got our ones here for the hinge assembly, the blue ones, and there's a spot down inside here. There you go. You can see it right there. That round spot right down there. That's to help index these springs, hold them in place, and keep them lined up for when you go to put everything back together, and keeps them from flying out of there when the thing's together and when you're putting it back together. So we did that, and got our springs in there. Now we're going to take our face piece with our wires and everything in it, and You got to slide these back together just like when you took it apart. So this frame piece right here, we're going to hold it up. You can see there, you see the springs, and you want to get this face piece to where it's, you know, close to parallel, as close as you can get it to parallel with the frame piece, and then you can slide it right back in there, and that's it. Just slides in, and if you get it lined up right, you'll have some bounce there from the springs pushing against it, you know, just like before we took it apart when we showed you that. So there we go. As long as you're in the right spot there, you're good to go. Now with this one having the park button on it, we need to get that up and out of here. So we're going to bring that up around. Okay, so with our park button wires ran up top here, then you can push your little tab right here, your wire holder. You can push that up through to help hold that wire up there. Bear with me here. This is a lot easier to do when you're not trying to get it lined up for the camera to be able to record it. There we go. So we got that in place there. This wires ran up through there, and now we'll get ready to sit this down into the top cover here. Now when we go to do that, you got to remember that the front of this piece right here goes in under these tabs, and you have to have this park button lined up. And this park button goes in here, it goes in there like this. It will only fit one way. It kind of slips down in under that plastic there, and then has the two little tabs at the back that index it and hold it into place. So we got that in there, and now we're ready to kind of lay the wire down in there as we go, and a little channel for it. Now get the tabs lined up there. Reach in under here, get our wire lined up with the spots that hold it in place, and there we are. So we got our tabs into place. We have our park button in there, and you want to, whoop, almost forgot, before we go putting this all back together like that, we have to put our button in there. We're going to slide that down in there. That's just going to sit right in there, and now we have that in place. Now we're ready to go. There we are. So we have this in there, and we have it right into where we need it to be. It's slid in under the tabs. Our wire comes up around top here for the park button, and we have it running through the channel that's made for it underneath there. And this part right here, these holes are actually part of this top cover, and this is part of the piece inside that we just slid into there. And you want that to be pretty much flush between those surfaces there. Same way with the back. At those surfaces, you want that to be pretty much flush. You know, so you're going to push down on this piece that you just slid in there, and hold it down against the spring tension, and then you're going to put your screws in there. And you want to do that while you're holding it down, because that prevents you from cross-threading it as easily. And the other thing you want to do, like we always tell you, is start your screws by turning them backwards till they pop into place, and you'll feel that little pop, then it's lined up, and there you go. You're ready to send it on in. We'll put the second one in here in the back. On these, we like to start at the back because that's where you have most of the most spring tension at, and it wants to pop away. The two pieces want to separate the most. So we got them in there. Now we'll put the two in the front two holes here. Now you're probably saying, oh, well, you put that button back here to open everything up. You put that in there, but you didn't put the spring in. Well, now you have this secured and in place. Now you can put the spring in, because it's just like the other ones. There's a spot there that's going to index that and hold it into place. so you can just simply push that in there. I would put your screwdriver through it and then push it in. That way it's going to keep it from flying out, and you can get it locked into place there pretty easily then. Make sure that's good. There we are. Snapped right into place there. So that's good. That's operational. You now have your hinge all set up there and working properly. Then it's time to put in your contacts for your mower to be able to charge. And this is one where you really want to pay attention to it, otherwise you're going to have these on the wrong side. So you're going to put the red wire over here where the hole is at, because that's the one that uses this little white plastic thing here to hold that in place. So that's the side the red one goes on. Now what you're missing out of there yet is your spring, and then you're going to have these slider pieces on there too. So we'll grab our springs. All right, we're in the home stretch here. Got our springs that push against the charging contacts. And again, these have the blue paint on them. They are the exact same springs that are used in the hinge piece. So if you get your parts all mixed up, no worries. Same part number, same parts. As long as it's the ones with the blue on there, you're good to go. So first thing we want to do is we want to take our spacer pieces here. They go on the bottom. Put them in there. And now this is one of the times where you always want to be sure you're wearing safety glasses and be ready for this. You want to have your screws ready. Use the gray screws. Obviously, that's all that's on this part. And use a washer on there. So that's how that goes. You're going to put your spring back in here into place, just like that. Lay that in there. And then this end of the spring will go against this end, this little tit that sticks out here on this charging contact. You're going to push directly in on that, and you're going to line that up with this hole right here, because this is made to slide on that piece, on that spacer right there, and this is raised up so it prevents this thing from coming off, the metal piece from coming off there. So you're going to take your screw with the washer on it, get that set in the hole right there. Again, spin it backwards a little bit until you feel it pop into place and line up. And then just snug that down. And that's it. There's your positive one. That one's good to go. Now we're going to do the same thing for the negative side. Get our screw ready with the washer on it. We got our spacer down in there. We're going to put the spring in. We're going to put this end right here of the metal contact piece into the end of the spring. Push in on that carefully. Line this all up. And then we're going to put our screw in there. Turn it backwards to get it lined up, and then we're going to snug that down. There you go. That's it. This part is all back together now. And now we're ready to put this back onto the charging station tower. So you got to put this all back together. Normally you would have a circuit board in here, obviously. We took ours out just because we're showing you how to take all this stuff apart. But we're throwing in this part here just in case you didn't see our other video about the charging station. You would plug your wires into the circuit board, and these tabs right here, they need to go into the 3 slots or 2 slots or whatever you got on yours, depending on what model it is. They need to line up in there, so just make sure you get your wires out of the way. And we'll do this like we were going to do it if there was a circuit board in there. We would have everything plugged in and in place, and then we would just slide this down over the front of the charging station tower. And when you bring that down, there should be really hardly any gap at all down here at the bottom. You know, this should look like a pretty good seam the whole way across there. You don't want to have it raised up like that where you can see those tabs in there or anything, because that's not the proper way to seat this. So there, we got that all lined up. And on the top part, of the tower, you want to make sure that everything is lined up there too. This is going to have to sit down on there pretty snug. You see that? You see there how we can raise up off of that? You don't want that. You want all of this to be sitting down in place and lined up properly. There we go. See how we don't really have any gap right here where the hinge is at. We don't really have any gap here at this spot or this spot, and then back over here where the hinge is at. Because if you have a gap there, then your screw holes aren't going to line up right for when you go to fasten everything together. You know, if this is raised up slightly, this part here, the screws are going through it and they're going into the tower piece. So you're going to strip everything out if you go to do it that way. Make sure everything's lined up. Put your 2 screws in there and you're done. You're ready to try this thing back out and make sure that everything's working properly. So there we go. We got 1 in there. Turn that backwards. It popped into place, lined up, and that's it. There we are. Everything's working the way it should. That snaps shut, and you can see this is latching very well. This doesn't have any give or flop to it. And that was one of the main reasons why you wanted to do this. You know, maybe replace those springs, replace the hinge parts, was because you can have this start to flop down. It doesn't latch right, and it flops down, and your mower comes in and just smacks on the front of this instead of driving under. You're relying on your mower to actually lift it up to get it under it. So the hinge, the springs, and your button right here, they're going to be the main parts that are going to affect all that and make sure that everything stays lined up where it should. And your hinge is going to come down. This part right here is going to latch in underneath here, and that's what's going to keep this from rocking up. So if this part's, you know, kind of worn or deformed or something like that, then you might have to replace your entire tower housing, or maybe your lever for your button. And again, check your springs and your hinges. You know, you can replace them. We have that stuff available. And just as always, if you're looking for any parts for your Automower, or you're looking to buy an Automower itself, or you need some technical support or anything of that nature, roboticmowerservices.com. Go on there for your parts. You can go on there and you can send us an email for any kind of tech support you're looking for, and we'll do our best to help you out. We have accessories, we have Automowers, we have all that good stuff available on there. So roboticmowerservices.com for all that stuff. And you can also send us an email at roboticmowerservices@gmail.com if you don't see anything on our website you're looking for, or you want to, you know, send us a good detailed message about what you need help with your mower, what it's doing, things of that nature. But that's it for this video here on taking apart the upper part of your charging station tower, and how that stuff comes apart, goes together, and what you need to look for. So hopefully you enjoyed this video. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, and thanks for watching.